So let's talk about how one word can influence your team to get things done. Hey everyone, this is Hassan Osman from thecouchmanager.com, and in this video we're going to be talking about how a single word can influence your team members, your significant others, or anyone in the world to do what you want them to do. Now before I share that word with you, let me talk about the research behind it. Back in the late 1970s, a research paper entitled "The Mindlessness of Ostensibly Thoughtful Action, the Role of Placebo Information in Interpersonal Interaction" was published. This is now known as the Yurok Study. And the idea behind that famous experiment was to discover if there was a best method for cutting in front of people who were waiting in line to use the photocopy machine. And 3 requests were used with different people at different times. The first request was, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I'm in a rush?" And that request got a compliance rate of 94%. What that means is that nearly everyone who was asked that question agreed to let the person use the photocopy machine ahead of them. And maybe that's because they sympathized with the person who was in a rush. The second request, which was used at a different time, was, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine?" And that request got a 60% rate of compliance. Now this decrease in compliance was probably because the person who made the request did not give a reason. And the third and final request was, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I have to make copies?" And that request got a rate of 93%, nearly as much as the first request. Now there is something unusual about that third request. The reason given, "because I have to make copies," is ridiculous. Of course they needed to make copies. Why else would they otherwise ask? And it turns out that the study proved that it wasn't the reason that mattered in influencing people, but the use of the single word "because" that did. In other words, using the word "because" increased the compliance rate by 33%, regardless of what the justification was. So the main lesson here is this: use the word "because" consistently to increase influence with your team, whether that's in your emails, your meetings, or even your voice messages. Now what comes after the word "because" doesn't really matter, but try to make the reason credible. And here are a couple of examples. "Sarah, I need the status report by Thursday because I want to review it before Friday." And here's another example. "Scott, please schedule a meeting for next week because we have to discuss our strategy." And there you go. Thanks so much for watching, and if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more updates. Thanks a lot.